Welcome everybody to the RealNex webinar series. I'm Jeff Finn, CEO at RealNex, and delighted today to be joined by Mike Lerg and Chris Sayre from our affiliate Pix Virtual that handles all of our 3D modeling work. Today, more than ever, we're finding that clients are in need of envisioning space, of virtual tours, of being able to see space before it exists or see space remotely. And there's no better way that we found to deliver that than through 3D virtual reality. Video is great and can be a great tool when space exists and can be captured, but with 3D models, you have the ability to interact and work with space either as it is or as it might be in the future. So being able to take advantage of envisioning and working with space before it exists or as it might be reimagined is a truly powerful tool, particularly in today's environment. So really delighted to be hosting this session and glad you're all able to join us. We will be sharing a recording and the deck early next week. But in the meantime, I will turn it over to Mike Lerg, head of our technology at Pix. And Mike will then follow up with Chris, who's our creative director at the Pix virtual team. So lots of valuable information to share. A number of people are still joining in. So as you get settled in, Mike, we'll let you take it away.
All right. Thanks, Jeff, and good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mike Lerg. Chris and I have spent our entire careers creating cutting-edge applications using virtual reality, and we've never seen it used as prevalently as we do today. VR is now easy to use, is accessible on your phone, and actually costs less than the traditional floor plans and renderings. So the pandemic, appears to have accelerated market changes that were already underway, as well as spurred some additional ones. In this webinar, we'll discuss and demonstrate current market conditions, talk about the impact and demand and shifts in usage, as well as how VR provides efficient and effective solutions to the current challenges. Specifically, we're going to talk about how to reconfigure, repurpose, and reimagine properties in order to succeed during this time of transition. This chart shows the percentage of special service rates or CMBS loans for the overall market and by the property sector. There's been a clear rise in distressed loans since the recognition of the pandemic. While the overall rate is 8%, While the overall rate of 8% is high, the bigger story is what happened to hotel and retail. The green line on this chart shows the number of reported hotel room closures due to the COVID-19 outbreak. In response to the economic downturn, hotels closed 5,300 properties, or 900,000 rooms. While some have reopened and demand has partially come back, many are still closed, and demand is still well below where it was earlier this year. The impact on hotels is also demonstrated by this chart showing the drop-off of revenue per available room. Keep in mind that the chart includes only data from the hotels that have reopened, not the data that was included in the previous slides regarding hotels that have closed. So some questions that remain are, how many hotels will reopen? How long will open hotels survive at this operational level? And if there's not enough demand for all these existing hotels, what's going to happen to those? Retail already had begun transforming as a result of the e-commerce. The pandemic seems to have greatly accelerated the changes going on. Store closures this year are projected to be more than 4 times what they were in 2018. Others have projected that half of all anchor stores will close by the end of next year, and 25% of malls will close within the next 5 years. Industrial properties are a bright spot, as indicated in the previous slides, showing special service rates remaining at constant at 1%. Since the financial crash of 2008 and 2009, e-commerce sales have remained stable. However, growth rates has increased 241% from Q1 to Q2 of this year. So from 13% to 44.5%, as evidenced by the spike. There's been a growing demand for industrial space, particularly for the last mile delivery. The future of the office market is unclear. The chart shows a drop of 8.4 million square feet of absorption this year, driven by a 14 million occupancy loss in Q2 of this year. The longer-term nature of these leases may be masking further impacts. However, other data suggests the office market may stabilize or even grow. As you can see in this chart, vacancy rates have remained fairly steady for the last 10 years. However, you can see by the green line, the demand for employee-based offices is projected to increase. Some factors driving the office market are recovering job growth, remote working arrangements, and social distancing impacts on employee density. So the jury is still out on what the future of office demand will be. So the impacts of those on hotels, those that are closed may not reopen. Currently operating levels may cost more to close, and a significant number of vacant hotels may need to be reopened. Space demand seems to be incurring a long-term reduction for retail. Strip centers and malls add to big bucks oversupply, and both the retail and experience and the reuse of space need to be reimagined for retail. For industrial, the demand exceeds supply for certain types, but for how long? And adaptive reuse of some retail is beginning to be considered for fulfilling multiple uses, as well as the last mile support. And for offices, the long-term demand is still unclear, and significant time and money is being spent on ensuring the safety and reconfiguring of the spaces. So given these impacts, it's clear that properties in these sectors will need to be reconfigured, repurposed, and reimagined. We'll show you in the next slides how VR can be used as a time savings, cost savings solution to attack these problems and reduce risk. Here's a case study in reconfiguring office space to meet the demands of social distancing and reduced employee density within the office. So I'm going to leave the PowerPoint for a moment, go to my browser, and I'm in a tool that allows me to do real-time 3D test fits. So this is an existing office layout that I'm going to drop into a 3D scene. And I can freely navigate around, zoom in and out. This is over the web, as you can see here. And it's an editing tool to actually create test fits. So while looking at this space, just working from the front, some of the key things based on current discussions on new office layouts to be COVID safe for social distancing is couches will be replaced more with sitting areas. The density of seating for 6 feet apart is obviously going to be changing. And up here, the layout of the cubicles here, you'll need to have higher divides between the cubicles, as well as more space between the seatings. And in this particular case, the only area that's really of breaking point for that factor is these middle seats here. Of course, you have these smaller meeting rooms that have 4 chairs and the kitchen area. So this is just the layout of the office space as it is today. And I'm now going to flip over and show a layout that we created that now meets the layout requirements. So going back from the front, we changed out the couches into a series of lounge chairs, about equal number of seats roughly, but meets the requirements. In terms of the conference rooms, there was 2 conference rooms with 22 seats. We now have 1 conference room with 10 seats that meet that requirement. We were able to keep the desks, but just rearrange them in such a way that there was at least 6 feet between them. And most likely you need to reapproach your vendor for these to then get extensions to heighten the divides between the users. So even though they're facing each other, there'd be a barrier between that height. We converted the meeting rooms from 4 people to 3, and that keeps it at 6 feet. Those tables would change from a 5-foot diameter to 6 foot. and you'll see that we changed to 4 seats instead of 8 in the meeting in the cafeteria area. And in the offices, we simply just spaced out the chairs of guests in that space. So within basically a matter of an hour, using simple drag and drop functionality, we can actually rearrange and lay things out in real time to come up with the test fits and do an unlimited number of them. So this is just one aspect of how to reconfigure an office space. So actually now we're going to, I'll stop sharing so that Chris can then share his screen. So I stopped my share.
Okay. Do you have to make me the presenter, Mike?
Let's see.
Here we go. All right, are you seeing my screen?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, as we've discussed, the increased vacancy for large anchor and big box stores, often these spaces need to be redemised into smaller spaces to attract new tenants. Here's a different solution that we use to reconfigure a shuttered Kmart into 6 smaller retail stores. There we go. This allowed the developer to pre-release the spaces prior to the completed renovation. And let me show you exactly how that works. One thing I want to point out really quick is how we have this simulation running inside of a web browser. And so, very easily, you can visualize what the Kmart looks like in its current state. And now that it's closed, we want to take a look at upgrading the exterior and redemising it to fit the additional stores that we have an idea of. So now we went from Kmart to a TJ Maxx, Barnes & Noble, and PetSmart. And so these are our larger retails right here. But then we also have 3 smaller retail spaces over here on the side. And while this is great that it can show what the redemised space looks like from the exterior, what's really useful and fantastic about this is that we can go into another view. We can take the roof off, and now we can show how we've got the space subdivided and the square footage for each of those spaces. And I can take a look at it from any angle. I can rotate around, and I can go into multiple angles to better understand the space and how it's being utilized. Hi. Okay, and now we've also, let's see here. Let me see here. Yeah, so we've given you 2 examples of how to reconfigure office and retail spaces. So between what Mike just showed you and what I just showed you, what we have here now is an example of how to repurpose your retail space to accommodate a shifting demand. In this case, we have converted an aged strip mall to a set of 6 new office spaces. And I'm going to pull that up while I talk about it really quick here. Pull it over here. Hit play. And the VR model was created prior to the renovation and depicts the updated property. And what it's going to start off with here really quick is it's showing the the 2D plan for the actual land itself. And we're going to jump in and show the power of VR and how we're actually able to visualize the 6 office spaces and the updated property, and how this helped facilitate the pre-leasing of the office spaces by showing them in actual virtual reality. And with all the VR tools that we have, what's great about it is it gives you an opportunity to take a look at the property from multiple angles And, you know, like I showed here, we've got our 2D plan, we've got our overhead 3D plan, and then we have multiple views that we can, you know, take a look at just by one click. And ultimately, we can go from a top level point of view to jumping right into the model as if you're really there. And so, you know, from within this view, I can take a look around. One click takes me for a walkabout tour of the property itself. Left click and drag shows me exactly what's going on here, and I can take a look left and right. And ultimately, there's also an auto tour functionality that we can have on. So let's say you're giving a presentation or you're sharing this VR experience with somebody that, you know, maybe they aren't too comfortable with controlling, you know, the user experience. You can set it to go all on its own. So we can have you take around and, you know, go on a self-guided tour of the property and go from camera position to camera position. And, you know, it's extremely, extremely valuable for some folks. Okay. All right, so here is another example of how property can be repurposed using VR. In this case, Trek was just one of several tenants within this building. The owner learned that they were looking to find a new space to become their local headquarters. And using this VR model, he was able to help Trek imagine how the building could be repurposed to meet their specific needs. And we're gonna open it back up again here. And everything we're showing you is running inside of a web browser. There's a couple of reasons why this is important. The main one being because it allows you to share these VR experiences with anybody, anywhere, so long as they have an internet connection. And so it can be embedded into a website. It can be shared, you know, into social media and all sorts of stuff like that. So it's very, very useful. And so you can see here we've got the original building here in its state. And then with one click, we're able to take a look at what the rebranded, remarketable, you know, building space would be like. So we've got some signage up on here. We've got some new materials that we've laid out to give the building an updated, fresh, and iconic look that would match Trek's needs. What I'm going to do, I'm going to jump back here again really quick back to the source building because, you know, while that's the outside, I want to take a look at how we repurpose this space and, you know, and how valuable it is and how powerful it is to use VR in a case of like this. So we're able to take a look at any one of these models from multiple points of view. We can take a look at the aerial view and see the overhead. I'm going to come back to this real quick. So you can see this is the current layout of the building itself. And the spot that I'm going to focus on and put the most importance into is this area right here. While we redid the whole building for them, we don't really have time to show the whole thing off, but I want you to keep in mind how the offices are you know, set up around the perimeter of the second floor. And we're going to jump right in with one button click, turn around. Let's just take a look at what that looks like really fast. So you can see we've got this drop-down ceiling here. We've got the offices, we've got the doors, and this is in its current state. Now, looking at the repurposed vision of this building for Trek in particular, we're going to jump back into the floor 02 top-down view, and I want you to take a look at what we did with the office spaces over here. And so what the idea here is that, you know, they wanted to take the office spaces out, open the floor plan up, turn it into a museum / conference meeting area, and you know, and show off the history of Trek bikes. And we're able to do that by including some of the iconic bikes in here. We've got posters all over the place, and we've got a little presentation screen up front. And what's really nice about this is that we can actually jump right back into, like we did with the first model, right inside the building and get an understanding of what this new updated look looks like. So you can see we've still got the drop ceiling in here, but We've removed the tiles, and we've got this exposed look to it, giving it a little bit more of a high-tech kind of feel. We can walk through it. We can see the presentation screen up here, and just like any one of the VR models that we're showing, one simple click takes you around, and this is something you can access on your phone, your tablet, your PC, Mac, Apple, doesn't matter what it is. And also what's really great about this is if you have an Oculus Quest or if you have Google Cardboard, you pop that on, jump into the experience, and if you look left, you look right, it is a fully immersive VR tour. So we're able to take a concept from one type of experience and transform it into something that can be repurposed and really show off the client's vision and help to sell it for rebranding. Okay, Mike.
Yep. So in this case, these are 3 examples of shopping malls that have been reconfigured or reimagined. The first being converted to an open-air mall with a very large expansion of apartment complex. The second being a dead mall that's being converted into a very large sports facility mixed-use complex in Cary, North Carolina. And then third is the conversion of the dead mall into a Amazon fulfillment center. And so these are just 3 examples of properties that have been reimagined into new purposes or expansion. And that trend is going to be continuing as more malls begin to close, as anchors have their difficulties. And Amazon will be expanding as its growth has in demand.
Okay, and here is a property that was reimagined using VR. So, what I want you to take a look at here is obviously this is your standard 2D floor plan. But, think about this. 75% of people cannot visualize a space in 3D by looking at 2D drawings or illustrations. I mean, the example illustrates that, pretty well, I think. If you take a look at this, you're trying to figure out where the doors are, where the windows are, where the bathrooms are, and if this was a larger piece of paper in front of you, you could figure it out and point to everything and look at it. But try to convey that message to somebody else that's not familiar with the space. Maybe they can't figure it out, and you're kind of hoping that they know what you're talking about just by showing it to them. And so for this, multiple renderings are needed to convey interiors and exteriors. And in this particular case, the client paid more than $1,500 for 2 versions of the same rendering, a day and night shot. Now as we know, renderings are not dynamic. And in this case, they didn't help the client envision what the inside of the space looks like. Obviously, because it's only the outside rendering. And so, what we're able to do is, let me pull this guy over. Show and tell, 1 click. And, this VR model was created just as an existing retail space was starting demolition to make way for this new office. And it was important for the tenants to experience the rentable space rather than just looking at an external rendering. And so that's why we're inside of it. But just like any of the other VR experiences that we've shown, we can come right outside with 1 click of a button. And we can get an understanding of what the space looks like from above. And in this case, we've got some additional information sitting inside the scene that tells the address and the square footage and the leasable space and the who to contact. But once again, 1 click takes us into an orbit view. And now I'm able to take a look at the doors, the windows, the relationship of the space better, and ultimately go into the model and walk through it with 1 click. 1 click press takes me on a walk forward. Click and drag, I can take a look around, left and right. And ultimately, we can also do once again, an automatic tour function. So combine all this immersion along with the visualization, and what you get is a combination of the experience that tells the story of the space in far greater detail and gives a greater understanding than any 2D image or single render could possibly do. No, I need the extra click. I keep clicking my screen once and nothing's happening. Okay, well, what happens when you are trying to pre-lease or pre-sell, but your biggest obstacle is the current condition of the property? VR can provide your potential tenants or buyers the ability to reimagine the property and kickstart the negotiation. This project started out as an abandoned school within a historic district of Detroit. You can tell it's abandoned, obviously. It looks pretty bad shape. The client needed marketing materials for the upcoming renovated apartment complex prior to the renovation. Hence, which is where the VR comes in. And so you can see on the right-hand side a quick capture of the experience that we're going to take you through now. Okay, and so we created this VR model, allowed the developer to create all the pre-leasing marketing materials, including their website and listing. And this is going to really, take home the power of an interactive model that also has the ability to give you unlimited renderings. So we're taking interactivity, we're putting that into your hands, and we're also going to, show you why this is so important, in the sense that I can walk through the space. Once again, I can look around. We've got some very high quality, real-time 3D VR in a web browser. But like we're saying, this particular developer wanted to create all this marketing material. Well, you can embed this into a website, but let's say you need some 2D, 2D images from this. One simple click of a button, and I'm going to hit P. What that's going to do is that's going to take a screen capture of what you're looking at. So, imagine going through, you've got, let's say it's this space, you're going through here, you want to create all this marketing material, and, all you have to do, go to a point your camera, press P, and now you've got it. And this is evident because if we take a look at the website here, this is the building here, the Elaine Lofts. We've got the 3D model that's been embedded into it. You can click any one of these and start the tour. So we'll just click this one here. Inside the browser, we've got the fully interactive VR experience. Clicking any one of the buttons in the upper right-hand corner takes you to the appropriate place within the tour. You can go full screen. You can exit full screen. Very, very simple. And what's really nice about this, and we're going to take a look at the next slide, next page, is how this was incorporated into a Zillow listing. So you've seen what the current state of the building is. You've seen what we've done in VR for it. And now take a look at the marketable material that was created from the VR model. It's a much, much nicer looking experience than going through the abandoned, hollowed out, dark, scary building. I think that's pretty clear, hopefully. And it was very easy for him to come, to go into the model and capture all these images on his own, which was very, very, very useful.
So hopefully we are able to show how the market trends are impacting the various property sectors. Hotel and retail segments are under a lot more stress, which seems to indicate many properties or parts of them will need to be repurposed or redeveloped. Industrial is increasing, specifically to meet the demand for the last mile delivery, and the future status of offices still remains to be unclear. Click.
Next.
then with so much real estate in transition, either going up or down, what are the owners and developers to do? So VR can accelerate the process to reconfigure, repurpose, and reimagine all property types, providing an ease of use of visualization to clearly understand your property's visions, real-time reconfiguration, time and budget savings, both traditional and cutting-edge pre-construction marketing materials, as well as numerous uses spanning the full property lifecycle, such as permit approvals, raising capital, pre-leasing or pre-selling, as well as asset and property management. So if these VR solutions can help you reconfigure, repurpose, and reimagine a property of yours, or if you have any further questions, please feel free to contact me at any time.
Mike and Chris, thank you guys very much for the in-depth presentation. We do have time for questions if people have them. We also, I think one of the things that you didn't talk about, which I'd love to see, and I think it's a great use case, is some clients have used this not just for the, you talked about the capital raise, the approval process and marketing, but at the point of an RFP where you're responding to a specific use case, sort of like Trek. I know we've worked on this on the industrial side. You didn't show one of the industrial projects. I'm not sure if you can bring that up. I know a number of the clients on the call are industrial oriented. It would be interesting to see how you've been able to envision, sort of a specific response, and what's the turnaround time. So if you had a model like Trek and a space like that building before, and there was a need to respond to a specific inquiry for a specific use, what is the turnaround, and what's the workflow look like?
Sure. So I'll take the answer while Chris brings up the file. The scope of work really is driven by a few factors. One is the size of the property, the type of the property, being industrial versus office or residential or multifamily. And so therefore the complexity of the scene. And in some cases for the residential side, we do it on a per bedroom basis. So how many bedrooms per unit, how many unique floor plans. For offices and industrial, the pricing is based on a square footage basis. And then there's various options that can be added to the VR tour. So there's the pricing is definitely less than the cost of traditional renderings, but for the audience, if you have a specific project in mind or scope, we can easily get you a estimated proposal very quickly within hours of getting some very basic information of what type of building, what size is it, and how is the virtual model to be used, what's its overall purpose.
Yeah, let me really quick too, since we have a couple of minutes here, let me just show a little bit more of what we're capable of doing inside these VR solutions. Because while we showed, a lot of the stuff we showed was very, they were nice tours. They didn't show some of the deeper functionality that we can actually achieve. And so, in this case, for the client, it was important that the surface of the corner of the building was to be adjustable. And so, what we've incorporated here is the ability to go in with one click and customize and alter what the look and feel of the building is just by clicking, right? So that's one aspect right there. Another one is that we can actually go in and we can embed information and data into the model itself. And so one click on this little button here is going to open up a Google Map view, which then allows me to understand, well, where is this building? And this is, running right inside the window here, and it is Google Maps. So it's full functional Google Maps inside the model. What's really nice too, and if I click this is going to take you, and in this case, it's pointing back to our website. So this can be the page for the actual model itself, or for more information on the company, or whatever you might want it to be. So we can point to a web page, we can go into Google Maps, and what's really nice here, we're going to go all the way into the warehouse. Remember, this is the value of this is being able to go from the top level down. So you can go to the exterior of the building, go into the interior of any building, and in this case, we've got some information that was very important for them to display. So we've got the sprinkler system here, and one click on the little button here will pull up a video. And so this shows the make and model of the sprinkler system, and that's valuable. We can also open up a web page directly inside of the model itself. So we've got the actual light that's being put into the facility. And then once again, we can open up PDFs, we can open up all other documents. This is the type of door that is being displayed here with all of the pertinent information tied to it. And then ultimately, as a high level informational point of interest, we can come over here, we can click this and find out the project size, the column spacing, and all sorts of other tidbits about it. So this gives a really good overview of why VR and interactivity is so much better than any one single 2D image, because it allows you to take a tour of a space. It takes all of the information that you would need to have multiple pages of a document and distills it into one interactive, highly purposeful VR model that you can, with a very simple click and drag, navigate and share to a website or create marketing materials from.
I was wondering if you could go to the building overhead view for a moment, Chris. So one thing we did for this client as a follow-on to this project, they gave us a site plan for a different warehouse, and that was it. That's all we had was a site plan, a rough layout of the size of the new building. This is a 500,000 square foot building. The new one was going to be 1 million square feet, and they needed to create a custom version of the warehouse for a specific client in a matter of days. So we were able to take some of the architectural elements of this building, build that site as to the same level of detail as you see here with the retention ponds and the landscaping, and flesh that out, including their logo and the style of the client's needs, and turn that around in a matter of days because of the similarities and able to reuse content from one to the other. So that way, with the vacant land, being able to show the client what the finished warehouse would be helps them in their discussions of pre-selling the property and the future state of the future warehouse.
Yeah, we do have a couple of questions, and just I know you need to get each model spec'd precisely, but just a frame of reference. If we could think about if someone's leasing out they've got one floor, a 10,000 square foot floor, or perhaps a 4-story building. One of the questions is, like, say it's 25,000 square feet per story, so 4 cloned stacked floors on top of each other. How do you price that? Just a frame of reference. I'm not precision, but just to give the audience some orientation.
A ballpark price. You're saying 25,000 square feet?
Yeah, if we look like one floor of a building, that's maybe it's a 10,000 square foot unit that's for lease. Another, if somebody wanted to do a whole building, a whole 100,000 square foot building, but it's 4 stories at 25,000 feet.
Okay, so just for ballpark pricing, if we're just talking interiors only, not the building exterior, that's a separate line item. For a 10,000 square foot unit would be roughly $1,300, and that is with a basic furnishing. If there's any customizations and other details, and those would be add-ons. In terms of a 100,000 square foot building that's 4 stories, that'd be closer to $2,300 for a similar level of detail.
And I know your pricing is different on industrial. That's one of the questions, looking for a similar type of per square foot metric to think about for an industrial space.
Sure. So with, let's say, a 500,000 square foot industrial space would be around $2,600. And that includes a 10% of that for estimated for office space for
That's
one
very,
ballpark,
yeah, that's
range.
incredible value. Is it when it's smaller, does it get much? There's the same client asked just for 50,000 square feet. Does it scale down
50,000.
proportionally? There's sort of a base load and then it's a price
Right.
on top.
The base at 50,000 square feet is $1,200.
Perfect. So it's very affordable. And what, as you said, it's like for less than the cost of what have been typical flat file renderings or pictures, you're getting an asset that's enduring. So it's not just the value you get now, but that file can be used the next time around. So if an office space, you build out the whole building, you can lease individual units over time. As they come back on the market, you take it back out and you've got it ready for next time.
And there's definitely between the different techniques that we have of doing test fits, once we have a space created in this particular technology called QuickTour, with this technology, it's very easy for us to move walls around and reconfigure the space and have that done in a matter of days with you and your client's input.
One of the great applications I've seen, I don't think you showed it precisely, and maybe we can take a quick look, but if you have an open floor plan, it's hard to imagine, as you say, not just what it can be in 3D, but what it can also be built out. And to think about, could you perhaps build a model or a use for a law firm, one for a tech company, one for a marketing group, sort of 3 different concepts so that you could, actually show different uses in the same space and swap them out.
Certainly, that's definitely the case. And then once we have the first space built out, then creating these second 2 spaces and furnishing them would be dependent upon the delta or the differences. How many walls are being moved? Is it just refurnishing, or is it true space planning and major differences? If there's a lot of redundancy between the 3 layouts, then the cost is very low and the time is very quick. If you're actually reconfiguring complete different layouts, then it's less than doing them from scratch, but it's not as efficient as if we're just changing the look and feel.
So Chris, I think you can show how you swap A and B models. Yeah, I'll make sure.
Yeah, and it's as far as presentation goes in terms of showing off the before and after state of a space. We'll come back to this model because it displays it quite well. Taking a look at the difference here and here is as simple as one button click. So we're able to link up models inside of the same scene so that you can take a look at this. We can walk through the whole thing. We can look at each floor individually. Like I said, we can rotate around. You can zoom in, zoom out, and interact with the model as much as you want. And this can be done on your phone. Remember that. That's a big deal. This can be done on your phone, tablet, PC, and it doesn't matter who you're sharing it to as long as they have an internet connection. And for anybody that's really into the immersive VR, it works on an Oculus Quest, and it works works on the HTC Vive and all the other good stuff that's out there currently that is a little bit more cutting edge, but people are starting to adopt more and more. We'll take a look at I just showed the first floor off a second ago. I wanted to show this really quick. It's important. We converted the first floor into a conference space here. So once again, you can see the difference from what we had before into what it is now. And actually, 18. That's what we want to do. We want to go to 18. And you can walk through the entire building. Like I said, easy to do, easy peasy.
Can you, a couple of questions they're starting to come in. The measuring of space, and I think you alluded to it, but you didn't actually show the measuring tools in RealFit, and just how easy is that to do? And then another question is, do you envision Oculus Quest with these models? Do you need it, and how, if you do, how does it get deployed? Does you need to come to a demo center, or?
Yeah, no. Yeah, I'll take the Oculus Quest one real quick, Mike. I'll let you talk about the measurement in RealFit. So as far as running any one of these models in the Oculus Quest, it doesn't require if you've got the headset, all you have to do is you open up your browser inside the headset and run the experience just like you would on your desktop, and then put the headset on. You put the headset on, and pointing with your controller and clicking on the ground would have the same effect as if you're actually in the model on your desktop or on your phone and clicking, physically with your mouse, or with a with a touch control on your phone. So touch screen or using the controller, it doesn't matter. But yeah, you don't require any special downloads to run these, and that's why this is special too, because traditionally 3D you would have had to download an app, install it, run it. This is being run inside of a web browser, and for something like the Oculus Quest, it's perfect, because you just go right into the web browser inside Oculus Quest, point to the address, and open it right up, and you're in there having a full VR experience. Same thing goes with the HTC Vive or any of the other other headsets. You just jump right in through the browser. So nothing to install. Yeah, nothing to install.
As you said, Chris, one of the reasons why the time is now for 3D virtual reality is because the technology has got to a point where it's both affordable and easily, readily deployable on the web. You don't need a room, or a special facility or heavy equipment to make it work. But not everyone has an Oculus Quest. And I think one of the things that you've mentioned in the past is, I think, a great marketing idea for a developer is, it's part of their marketing to send out a Google Cardboard, which is cheap, and you turn your iPhone or Android into a 3D headset. You might want to just talk about that as Mike's bringing this up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the idea here is, because it runs on your phone, you pop your phone into Google Cardboard, and that's it. It will work for you perfectly. All right, so I'm going to make Mike the presenter.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So as you see along the top, the user interface, these are the tools to actually edit the scene.
We just lost you. Something happened. You were presenting, then you lost it. Let me give you back.
Share my screen again. How about now?
Yep.
Okay, sorry about that. If you look along the top, these are the editing tools. Very simple. You don't need to have CAD experience or 3D experience to do a lot of what entails to lay out the quick tour, or the RealFit. And so somebody was asking about the measuring. And so there's a couple different measure tools. So for me, when I laid out the space, I wanted to make sure that, from chair to chair, had at least 6 feet in between. So how that's done for individual linear measurements. And then we can also do area measurements, for, say, a size of a room. But also you can export that data, and it'll then export to an Excel spreadsheet or a CSV file. And that then gives you the inventory of the furniture and any of the amenities, as well as the linear and area of wall space. So how much paint's needed, how much flooring is needed. So you can then do your bill of materials in an Excel spreadsheet.
Perfect. Let's see. One last question. So can one just watch it in a browser without a VR tool on that? Yeah, so absolutely. That's what we're saying. You can watch this just like we did today. You can put it into a website and have a link. Anybody can come and look at it through any of their browsers. They can look at it on their phone. It's not, there's no VR tool needed on the client side. It's all being hosted, run, and created by the PIX team.
Yeah, that's another important point, Jeff, that I want to make clear is that when we deliver one of these VR models in a quick tour, the only thing you have to do is get the link from us. We are hosting it on our servers, which is very important as well, because what some folks do is they they get saddled with the cost of having to host models on their own from some other providers, and that's not the case here. We give you a link, and if there's any adjustments or changes that need to be made to the model at any point in the future, that link gets updated, and you don't ever have to worry about downloading anything or doing anything other than getting that web link from us. And then if you lose it or you can't find it again, you just ask us and we send it right back to you. So easy.
The other thing I think is maybe implied in this question, but not specific, is that, and you showed a little bit of it, but if what the client wanted was a video player, we could basically, I think, Chris, Mike, create the tour and someone would just press play and it runs without them having to do any movement. You could start with the aerial, you can go into the space, walk through all the different things that you want to make sure are seen. You could put up messages along the way that would indicate any amenities that you want to bring attention to, and totally control the environment.
Well, and we've got that, so that auto tour function that I showed earlier is really kind of the bread and butter of being able to do a presentation mode or having somebody with one click sit back and just watch the experience unfold in front of them. But of course, that's something we could create a video experience in addition to the actual quick tour from the quick tour model. So that's something we could supply, and we could, give a little bit more pizzazz to if you needed music and everything else. But ultimately, the 3D model in and of itself provides all the interaction, the capability of clicking on something, playing a movie within it. And so, most folks find that having just the 3D model and being able to press autoplay or take the tour themselves is sufficient. But we can create a movie if that's requested.
And two final questions here. So they're sort of aligned. What if the client wanted to host and didn't want us to host? And if we did host, how long do we host? And how long does it remain live and active?
So right now, the hosting is indefinitely. There's not a hosting fee tied to our services. If the client wants to host the file, we can simply give them a zipped folder that they would then extract and then put up on their server. And then it would be their URL to point to.
So no special needs to facilitate that. It's just having the file.
No, essentially, as we showed it, you can either go directly to the link and have it tick over a full web page, or as Chris showed, it was in a iframe within a web page and playing within the page itself. And that's just standard embed code of like you're just going to embed an image inside of an iframe. It's the same functionality. It's just as easy.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys. It's a great job. We really appreciate the work that you're doing. We've done so many projects together. The clients are loving this and wanting it more and more than ever today. Thank you all for joining us. We hope we can work with you and deliver 3D services for you and your clients and help you create a interactive and dynamic market in a challenging time to show space. We can help make that a reality. So give us a call. You've got Mike's information, and any of your RealNex reps could also help. In the meantime, hope you have a great day, and we will see you next time. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Have a good day.